Attention Northwest Arkansas businesses and talent seekers. Introducing OnboardNWA.com, your hyperlocal job board crafted for our unique community. Struggling to find the perfect match for your job openings? Onboard NWA simplifies the hiring process, connecting you with the region's top talent through tailored talent matching solutions. Whether you're an employer seeking expertise or a professional looking for your next opportunity, Onboard NWA is here for you. Discover more at onboardnwa.com. And let's build the future of Northwest Arkansas together.
It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, special episode, 5 New Things. My partner in crime and I are here, Jared Toms, and we have gathered some great information. And again, we're still formulating this podcast and, this special episode that we're doing on the frequency isn't every week, but, we missed last week. We didn't really miss it. We were kind of doing research and wanting to share what we were going to share today, but bear with us as we continue to do this. This is an extension of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast, which focuses on the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life. And when you think of culture and life, I think about food. I think about all these different influences. And so today's episode is certainly our, ode to the different international markets that exist in and around Northwest Arkansas. Because when you think of Northwest Arkansas being this new melting pot of people coming from all over, so many different nationalities that are represented here. I think it's important for us to know all the places that we can go to get that, rare spice that we need, that we grew up with or something like that. And so whether you're born and raised here in Northwest Arkansas or you just moved here a year ago and you can't find that much needed spice, whatever it could be, if you're Jamaican, it could be pimento. If you're I could go on, but that's the one I know for sure. So, but I'll let Jared talk a little bit more about that. But without further ado, my partner in crime, Jared Toms. Jared, what's going on?
Yeah, I saw so many new to me markets that I explored. All of these on the list, the 5 that I have on the list, I've been to one of them on a regular basis.
Okay.
So these were all new to me, but I'm going to be a regular at all of them now. They were so cool. I've lived here for 11 years and I've never been to some of them. And I walk in, I'm like, where have I been? What is happening here? So the first one I'm going to talk about, I have been to before. Big fan of this place. It's called Tang's Asian Market in Springdale.
And wait, before we go on with this, we want to throw out a little disclaimer here because I think what people, a lot of times, some of us, myself included, are so used to going into markets where if we see even a speck of dirt on the floor, we're turning around and walking out the door. And I got to tell you, I've lived in New York City, I've lived in San Francisco and a bunch of other places that have had some fabulous international markets. And I got to tell you, folks, some of the best places to go to get spices and other foods that you don't normally find in general markets that we find here in the U.S. aren't always the cleanest.
Yeah.
I can remember a spot that we would go to on a regular in Boston. And honestly, they had mice and other stuff.
God.
Yeah, it was hardcore, but the foods that they had available, it was like, well, hey, if these bags are not open and everything is fine, then, it is what it is. But what people don't realize is that, in any company that provides canned foods, I can guarantee you that something has ran over them or something along those lines. And I know people don't want to think about that, but we're just prefacing it. And not to say that any of these places are filthy or anything like that, but sometimes some of the best markets aren't always the cleanest markets.
Yeah, it's in the way that it seems to me, and Tang's is very similar to this. It's very similar to what you might find like in Sam's Club. There are boxes of products that are like sitting around that may not be fully unloaded onto the shelf, and the shelf may not be perfectly lined up in a synchronized row like you would find at our local Walmart. So it does not mean that they are not amazing. Don't judge a book by its cover.
Sure.
And I've been to China myself. This is exactly what those markets look like. So I know that they are authentic and amazing, and Tang's is one of those. So yes, it's a good preface to say, just don't judge a book by its cover when you walk in.
Right.
It may be, a little bit less organized than you're used to seeing, but that is typical. That is normal. It's still amazing product. And it's good to just explore. Like, I was just walking up and down aisles and peeking at things and just like, what is this product? So Tang's is, like I mentioned, it's a classic Asian market in Springdale. It's on technically Thompson Street, aka Highway 71, aka College that is in Fayetteville that turns into Springdale. You just go straight down College in Fayetteville and it will turn into Thompson. So this is where I actually shop most often for Asian goods, including food, cooking tools, and special equipment. So a lot of people don't think about that. A steamer basket, you can't really find that easily here unless you go to one of these Asian supermarkets, and they are phenomenal. They're in the back. They have chopsticks. They have the little, like the white spoons that you see when you're getting dumplings, and like those, I don't know if it's called a dumpling spoon, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like a soup spoon. Yeah. And it can kind of sit up on its own, actually.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. So they have those, they have woks, they have, just everything you can think of. And what I love about Tang's in particular is many of the labels are in English, or they have an English tag right next to it. So if you don't speak Chinese, if you don't speak Korean, you really want to understand, the ingredients in that product. They have English labels on pretty much everything. And if it's not on the product, it will be on the shelf. They have a little tag. So if you need kind of like an intro into the Asian supermarkets, this is a good place to go, because they are really good about putting English on everything. This is especially one of my go-to spots for frozen items that I want to just keep in the freezer and I can like get out. So frozen, I don't know if I'm ever saying this word right. Gyoza, you know what I'm talking about, like dumplings.
I always thought it was gyoza, but I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about. But people know,
yeah, people see that. They're like, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Like frozen little dumplings.
Right,
so they have that, frozen bows, like so many things that you can just keep in the freezer for a quick meal and pull out and just microwave, oven, like whatever.
Right.
They also have a great deli complete with the Peking duck, like hanging from it's not from the rafters, but you know what I'm talking about if you see the picture.
Yep.
And that is so accurate. I saw it in China, like all over the place. That's so accurate. That's what they do in the deli. So don't be alarmed. That's what it is.
Right.
But it's really good duck. It's so, so good. And this is one of the only markets that I know about, especially in Washington County, that has the special Asian produce like taro and like special like Asian vegetables that you're not going to find.
You're not going to find anywhere. Yeah.
So they have those. They have 4 different versions of sriracha. Did you know there are different versions?
I didn't know there were that many versions of sriracha.
There was a green one. There was a yellow one. There was a brown one. I was shocked. Wow. I didn't know that there were different versions of sriracha. So they had all of those. And I love going here too. I mentioned the cookware, but they also have every noodle you can ever think of. So if you need that specialty noodle for the pad thai or for, whatever dish you're making, noodles, sauces, special like rice, flour, every flour you can think of, every different flour that you can think of, they had it there. Like, you can't find rice flour that easily, for instance, here. They had tons of rice flour. So it's like all of those new and, unique and interesting ingredients. And like I mentioned, steamer baskets, woks. And it's usually a lot cheaper than ordering it online. I'm not going to say always, but it's usually cheaper than ordering it online because they just sell it every day. They even had, I saw on their Facebook page a few days ago, they had these like molds for moon cakes, and it looked so pretty that I guess it's a tradition that you make moon cakes, coming into this time of year. And they were just these beautiful molds that you put the dough into and then like press it. It was so cool. So if you want to explore, especially a great Asian market, that is a must visit in Springdale. And actually just down the road from that, probably less than a mile, is Asian Amigos supermarket, which we talked about, I think maybe the first episode or last episode, this was a new to me spot, a little bit hard to get to. My Google Maps took me behind the building, but we got there. We follow the map and you'll be okay. But I remember pulling behind it and I was like, is this correct? But it just took me behind. So if that's you too, it's okay. You're going the right way. This one was a little bit harder to navigate for solely English speakers. They had some English stickers, but they also had photos on the packaging. So the photos help. And that's how I navigated when I was in China. There is no English in China, hardly anywhere. So we relied a lot on pictures when we were looking at menus or when we were at the market. So this is very similar. Just look at the pictures and it will clearly tell you usually what that item is. Yeah. So what I liked too, they have mostly Asian items, but some Hispanic items as well. I got my tajin here. I am now eating tajin on my eggs every single morning. Why was I not doing this before?
Yeah, you sent me a message about it while you're like, oh my gosh, where has this been in my life? So I need to do this more often.
It was so good. So, and I got a little container of it. So if you just want to try it, they had a little one, which was really, really easy. And this is where I would go. The thing that I noticed the most, so much ramen. And so many snacks. It was ridiculous. If you want the crazy chip variety of every chip flavor you can imagine, you will find it here, which that's very popular in Asia. I follow this woman on TikTok who she's in Beijing. She's a singer and she's working in Beijing for a few months. So it's my life as an American living in Beijing. Mm-hmm. And she went to the store and got these pumpkin caramel flavored Pringles and mojito flavored. So this is normal in China. So when you go to this market, they have the same thing. There were sweet basil chips to I got barbecue pork, and it literally looks like pork on a grill, on the packaging. So you know exactly what it is.
Right.
So they had a ton of variety of that. A full supermarket shelf of ramen, massive amount of ramen. Every flavor you can think of, a 12 pack all the way down to an individual size. So ramen for days at this place.
And who can go wrong with ramen? I mean, if you want a quick meal and, your sodium content might go through the roof real quickly. Need to watch that. Although there are some, and we get some really good ramen packages that the sodium content is just tampered down a little bit. Yeah. So,
and it's just the seasoning that's the worst about it. So you can even do half seasoning too if you wanted to.
And real quick, just a side note, my wife makes this amazing. She uses fish sauce and anchovy paste, and she makes kind of an Asian, it looks like a slurry of a brownish slurry that you would see on certain Chinese food that you might eat. And she makes that. So we usually cook up the ramen and then we take about a dollop of that and mix it in with the hot noodles and mix it around, and it gives it such a nice flavor. And it's not over the top salty, but the brininess of the anchovies and the fish oil that she uses makes it perfect. And she got that recipe, I forget out of where. I'll have to find that and maybe include that recipe in the show notes. But man, that's our go-to. So we typically throw out the seasoning package, heat up the noodles, and then we take this little mixture, and we always keep a big jar of it in the fridge. And we're good to go.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
There's just so many good things that you can do to ramen and just amazing flavors of it. And this is the place to go. It was so much ramen. It was ridiculous. I took a picture. It was so ridiculous.
That's cool.
They also have a small seafood counter in the back. So I walk up to it and there is a box of fresh blue crab just sitting there. And I wouldn't reach in with my hand to grab them. I would ask a professional. Right. But it was fresh blue crab just right there. And I was like, wow, okay. So
I think they get their stuff in 2 or 3 times a week or something like that. So it is, it's fresh because my son's eating a lot of fish from there and he's still alive and kicking. And, there's a lot of options there as far as that's concerned. So.
Yeah, it was huge. It's a great place to explore in Springdale and, just another amazing Asian market. Sure. Now, going kind of the complete opposite way for European food, this place is completely new to me. It's called European Gourmet NWA in Rogers. Definite new to me spot, but I will definitely be back. The owner was so nice. From the minute I walked in, he walked me around the store, kept asking me if I wanted to sample things. I sampled meat, cheese, desserts, breadstick. Like he just kept handing me like, you want to try this? You want to try this? He was so nice. And so I will say this is another place where not much English on the packaging, like not at all. But he will tell you if you ask him, like I pulled something and said, hey, what is this? And he said, oh, it's like a cracked wheat that you would cook, you know, like rice or something. So he was extremely nice. Don't feel intimidated if you don't know what something is. It was so fascinating to me. It's more Eastern European and Russian products, which you don't find like hardly anywhere. He had caviar. I mean, he had everything. And they're always bringing in different cultures from Europe, though. So he'll have some other random things that are not Eastern European or Russian, but that's just kind of a lot of the primary options.
Right.
And it's also a cafe, which I'll get to in just a second. So it's half market, half cafe. They're located on Walnut on the way to downtown Rogers. It's just kind of outside of that. And they import all of the products directly from Eastern Europe and Russia, hence the no English on the packaging.
Sure.
So they also have a really good deli with special meats and cheeses. And like I mentioned, you can sample. He gave me one. It reminded me a lot of like summer sausage. If you're familiar with that in Arkansas, like we would do, it's basically you put it on charcuterie board, or in my case, when I was growing up, my mom would hand us that and cheese and crackers and say, here's lunch. Like it's just the summer sausage lunch. So it reminded me a lot of that. And I also got some black currant jam, which I've never had black currant. So, and I was looking at the shelf, they had quince, which is an interesting fruit that you don't find like anywhere. Yeah. So they had that. I mean, they had everything. I got a seasoning blend for salmon, like a little package of seasoning for salmon. And these amazing, they're sitting in my pantry and I'm trying not to eat them all. European chocolate covered marshmallows. So good. It's like almost like a meringue like size of marshmallow, and it's just covered in this dark chocolate. It was so good. And he let me sample it before I bought it, opened a package. And I was like, what? You know,
a lot of good international markets will do that because, again, they know that once they get you coming there, you go there for good. Like my wife she's a fixture in Asian Amigo. I mean, she definitely goes, that's her spot. And she goes back every time when she needs something. And that's that. And the only time that we don't go, you know, I mean, again, for us, you know, especially for my wife, she's from Trinidad, our family's from Trinidad. And so for island cooking, you always want to get certain things that sometimes you just can't find anyplace else. You know,
exactly.
You can find it in New York, you can find it in some big cities, but you know, more and more places are opening up, especially here in Northwest Arkansas, that are able to cater to those wide and varied tastes.
Yeah, and especially if it's unfamiliar to you, that you can try it. So it's not like you're going to try something and hate it. Yeah. You can potentially try something and, you know, see if you like it or not. So like he was wonderful explaining everything. They even had flours like semolina flour, which if most people don't know, that's what you need to make the best homemade pasta. Like hands down, you need semolina. It's a little bit stronger, so your pasta is going to, you know, hold up and just like go through the machine okay, that kind of thing. So they had semolina flour, which I've tried to find in Northwest Arkansas and never found it easily. So now I know where to go to get it.
Yeah.
And the cafe, they have the cafe kind of like attached. So they have a separate entrance, but you can also just go through the market. And in the cafe, they had savory pierogies, which are like a little dumpling, borscht, which is like a Russian beet soup. I think it got a bad rep in a couple of movies. It's actually really good.
It's really good. And borscht is really good for you. It can help lower your blood pressure. I mean, there's a number of reasons to eat beets as much as possible.
Exactly. So they have that where I've never seen it anywhere else. They have something called pelmeni, which are dumplings filled with pork, veal, beef, or chicken and served with their house-made butter, sour cream, and dill, which sounded really good.
Yep.
They also have bellinis, not to be confused with Bellini, the drink, blini, which is like a different word. They're kind of like a Russian pancake or crepe that's filled with meat and cheese. So it's nothing crazy. It's just like you would understand what these products are. They also have sweet pierogies, ice cream, and cakes all in the cafe, which was crazy, and coffee as well. So, I mean, if you're looking for great European products in particular, this is the place to go. And it's interesting. I put it up on my Instagram and someone responded immediately. It was Allison Wise, who's on 4029 News. And she's like, I was there an hour ago. I was like, how did we miss each other? So it's like that we know the go-to spots apparently to go. But yeah, kind of moving again in another direction, but back to Asian, but to Indian this time. We have a very strong Indian population in Bentonville. I mean, I think the largest cricket league outside of India, I've heard that. Unsure if it's true, but I've heard that from a few people. Okay. And they're building, I think in one of the new parks, this huge cricket, is it called a pitch? I can't remember.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So they're we have a massive Indian population here. And so we have a lot of great Indian marts, of course, and supermarkets and all of that. So the one that I was told to go and check out the most, thanks to Krishna, who sent me this, she used to own an Indian restaurant in town, so I knew she would know where to go. She sent me to India Plaza, which is located in Bentonville, and it was amazing. It's located on Susanna Street in Bentonville. It's next to Board Game Nights, so people know absolutely. That place. Yeah. It's next. That's
a little strip mall, and that's just down the road a bit from the Climb.
Yeah,
and it's just right down that same road.
It's right there, and so India Plaza is like a small little market right there. I walked in, it was so clean, so organized, just bright. You walk in and to your left, there's all this amazing produce, and I took a picture of something. It was snake cucumber or something. Had never seen this thing before in my life. So I was like, this is kind of cool.
Did you buy it or you just?
No, okay. I was curious. Yeah. I may go back because I want to get some of the frozen items. So I may go back and pick that up as well. But I was just walking around, so many spices. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And Indian cooking is known for amazing spices.
And curries, insane curries.
Everything you can think of. I mean, whole spices, ground spices. They had this package of whole spices for garam masala. And I was like, I use garam masala all the time, but I have it ground. I didn't know all of the whole spices in it. So you can see bay leaf, you can see, coriander, all of those things. I would prefer to get the whole spices, and then you apparently toast them and then you grind it up. That's the best way to do it.
Right.
But I didn't know the whole spices in garam masala until now. So I know where I can get it. But they had, lentils on lentils on lentils, bags and bags of every lentil you can ever think of. I didn't know there were this many lentils, so much, and rice and the fresh produce that I mentioned. The frozen items, they had ice cream. They had tons of ice cream, frozen naan, frozen paratha bread, so many amazing things. And we were talking about it. If I'm making a curry at home, it's a process. It's a lot.
It's a lot of work.
And I can make my own naan bread. Sometimes I just don't want to add that to my plate. So I'm probably going to go and get some frozen naan and just keep it.
Yeah.
And I have, some of those mixes where you can make falafel and I want it on naan bread. So I'm probably just going to keep that in my freezer. But they had so many things, just an amazing market in Bentonville, would highly recommend. And I did want to give honorable mention to Krishna mentioned two other great places, India Mart, and I'm going to butcher this name. I'm so sorry. Samvidha. That's how it's spelled. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but we'll put it in the show notes so you know what the name actually is.
Are those both in Bentonville?
Those are both in Bentonville. Okay. They're probably less than a mile from India Plaza. Yeah. So they're all within the same area, which is really, really convenient. And the last place I wanted to talk about is actually less than a mile than where we're sitting.
You just came from there recently.
I just came from there.
So it's fresh on your mind.
Yeah, fresh on my mind. This is a Hispanic supermarket, and I mean the word supermarket, which I'll get into. It's called Supermercado La Villita in Rogers. So it's on 8th Street. And it is a massive supermarket. Everything you can think of, from personal care items to food, and every Hispanic item I could think of. It was so much stuff. Tons of amazing produce, especially peppers, a lot of fresh peppers and I'm not a pepper person normally, but I saw red jalapenos. You don't see those anywhere. There was some kind of a yellow pepper, and I'm not talking a bell pepper. I'm talking It was kind of a whitish yellow pepper. Unsure how spicy it was. Not going to try it. But they had habaneros. I mean, and the produce just looked amazing. Like, I mean, amazing looking produce. They had poblanos. They had citrus. They had everything. Tons of dried peppers as well. So you'll see, like, especially chefs use the dried peppers and they'll rehydrate them and put them in a sauce, but you can't find them anywhere to save your life.
Right.
They had a whole wall of these spices.
Goodness.
So just like guajillo, like every dried pepper you can think of, spices I've never heard of that looked really interesting, just like everything you can think of. The meat counter, it was like the entire back of the store. And I'm talking like what I saw the most was marinated meat. So like it may be marinated pork that you take home and cook and turn into carnitas, but you didn't have to marinate it yourself. Right. It's pre-marinated.
Right.
I mean, they had so much. They had a deli. They had everything. I've heard that the restaurant is amazing as well. There's a restaurant within the supermarket. This is how big this place is. So you walk in and it's to the right and it's like along the right wall. And there were people sitting in there at like 2:00 still eating. So I've heard it is fantastic food. I've not actually had it yet, but it sounded amazing. And I mean, I was just blown away. Like I walked out of all of these places just thinking, why have I not been shopping here? This was crazy that I've not been. I mean, they had curry leaves, for instance, at, a couple of these places. And I was like, I've ordered that from Amazon because I could not find it anywhere because I didn't know. So now I know where to go when I'm making European, Indian, Mexican,
Asian,
anything.
Yeah.
I mean, anything under the sun, I'm just going to go to these places. So you definitely need to check these out. I mean, just fantastic. And I'll give an honorable mention as well. Next to La Villita is actually La Popular. That is where I get my tortillas. And I mean, the best tortillas, homemade. Like if you get the corn tortillas, for instance, it is a stack of probably 30. I'm not lying.
Really?
Like
how big? Like the smaller size, or can you get the larger size?
I think you can get the larger flour. If you ask them, they probably would have a larger one of corn. I just get like the normal, is it 6 or 8 inches? Like just the normal size. But they literally have them sitting in a cooler wrapped in paper. They're still warm.
Right.
They have been warm, like made that day.
Oh,
it is
goodness.
crazy. And the flour ones are amazing too. I got a packet of flour and a packet of corn. I mean, at least minimum 30, 40 tortillas for $6. And I was like, what have I been doing?
I know. That's a deal. That's a deal. Because
like
my kids go through, they make quesadillas all the time and they go through tortillas like they're going out of style.
Oh, yeah. You need to go there.
I do need to go there.
And they're a panaderia as well. So it's like a Mexican bakery. So they have, you pick up the little tray, like a lunch tray, basically like you would. And they have tongs where you pick out like the pastries, and it's like sweetbreads. So like colorful Mexican sweetbreads. And then you go check out and they'll, whatever you got, they'll ring it up. They also have the best tamales, like the best tamales. So they have lunch stuff that you can order as well. Just the best stuff. So if you're at La Villita, go to La Popular next door as well. Okay. And then also honorable mention, a lot of people mentioned La Finca. And Supermercado Taranda was the other one as well. And like we mentioned, I mean, there are so many amazing markets. Like if we missed your favorite one, tell us, like DM us on Instagram, email. I mean, there were so many amazing markets. We couldn't get to all of them, but these are just at least some of the favorites. Yeah.
No, well, that's a comprehensive and exhaustive list. And we'll certainly try to give each of these different ones some FaceTime, but certainly we encourage you to share this episode with a friend or somebody else that's been asking about great markets to go to, and definitely check out the show notes because you can get the instant gratification of knowing where these places are right away. But if you want to hear a little bit more about them, I mean, there's nobody better than Jara to kind of walk you through all the ins and outs of that. And I could do it, I'm sure, but it would be more of a challenge. But she has called together a really nice list of places that you should check out here in Northwest Arkansas that I think would really benefit you, especially if you're trying to raise your cooking game, to try new things.
Yes.
It's there for you. It's definitely there for you.
And just give it a try. If you don't like it, there's probably something else on the shelf right next to it that you'll like. But it's like, if you want to make the ultimate Indian curry, for instance, like get the whole spices and really do it right. And I mean, these are going to be the places that you're going to be able to do it, which we're very lucky. Like in Central Arkansas, these places don't exist.
Yeah.
So at least in Benton, they may have some in Little Rock.
Right.
Like a lot of
even
these
I'm
don't.
still willing to bet the farm that it doesn't exist. I mean, I think, again, I always say it's an embarrassment of riches of what we have right here in Northwest Arkansas. And sometimes you just don't know it until you peel back a layer or two and take a closer look. So, but no, this has been great. Certainly we went over our time, but I think that's a moving target for us. But this is one of those episodes actually that I think is going to have some legs. This is going to be something that people will refer back to in a year or two and be like, yeah, I remember hearing those guys talk about this, and here's all the information. So we're going to make sure that this lives beyond the normal social media cycle of a couple of days, so that you can always refer back to this. You can share this with a friend, and you can always access it online at iamnorthwestarkansas.com. So any final thoughts?
I mean, just like I said, go out and try these places, meet the owners. Like, I think every single place that I walked into, the owners were there, or they seemed to be the owners or the managers. So like, talk to them, ask them questions. They are happy to answer and like guide you in the right direction. Don't be nervous. I promise.
And tell them that you heard about it first on I Am Northwest Arkansas's 5 New Things with Randy and Jara Nally Toms. And, hopefully you'll be able to let them know about that. And Jara, if anybody wants to connect with you, what's the easiest way for them to do that?
Probably on Instagram at Jara Nally Toms. If you type in Jara, Jerra, I'm usually one of the first ones to come up. There's not many of us.
Yeah, exactly. So that's right. And I'm always, I Am Northwest Arkansas or at Randy Wilburn. You can check in with me. And certainly if you want to let us know about a place that maybe we missed, hit us up at Randy at iamnorthwestarkansas.com or hello at iamnorthwestarkansas.com. Either of those emails will reach us, and I will connect with Jara, and we'll figure out how to include it in the next go around of international markets that we will feature here on 5 New Things with I Am Northwest Arkansas. That's all we have for today. We will see you soon, and we appreciate you guys so much. Have a great one. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit iamnorthwestarkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.